Let's see. Can you get okay? I just have to make one quick adjustment because it's on media. There we go. All right. This is the second slide. It should be fine.
Rolando is very facile with this.
Oh, good.
And he had a plan A, which didn't quite work the way he wanted, so he's already gone to plan B.
Good, good.
Oops.
So, Rolando, are you at work or at home today?
I'm at home. I was kind of nervous, so
Don't be nervous.
I took the time. I took the time off, and I'll probably go in this afternoon. They all know I'm defending today, so
Yay!
they're all excited to see me later on this afternoon to see how I did. Here's hoping.
Yeah, you're great. Don't worry.
All right. So, should I get started, or?
That would be fine for me. And I'll put my mic off so we don't get too much interference. Meg, if you click your mic on and off when Rolando's talking, when he's speaking, if we turn it off, we'll hear more clearly, and then remember to turn it back on. So I'm going to turn my mic off, but it's all yours, Rolando and Cal-El. And
Yes.
if you could give us some background, say maybe 20 minutes to half hour, and then we'll ask you questions. So I'll just be sitting here quietly. Meg, also, you can type in the chat box. I'm not sure if Rolando's going to be able to pay too much attention to the chat box, but that is a possibility also.
I'm experiencing some technical difficulties with my slides, but I'll do my best to try to go over them. As you can tell, I went blue on everything. Hold on one second. And that wasn't supposed to happen, but the name of the project is Refocusing Academic Advisement Networks, short for RAN for short, rather. The purpose of this project is to serve as a tool to assist with orientation conferences, to teach students about the registration process at the university, as well as serve as a bridge between the students and their academic departments, as well as to also serve as a place to model advisement best practices. The population for this system, for this project, is incoming transfer students. The reason being is part of my job is transfer advisor as well as academic advisement coordinator. And from what I've noticed, and part of my job is to assist with registering transfer students during their orientations. During this time, I've seen that transfers have a difficult time transitioning into newer, larger institutions, especially when it comes to coming from two-year institutions. A lot of students are used to individualized attention, which they may not get in larger. We have upwards of 700 majors, and it's difficult to get them the individualized attention or break them up into smaller groups because of various resources. Much of the time they may experience transfer shock. As I wrote in my paper, transfer shock is basically the difficult time that they have transitioning to these larger institutions. And we see that a lot of the times, or I have seen a lot of the times, that my transfer population are non-traditional students in the sense that they may be first generation, low-income, disabled college students, or students that, like I said, are first generation and may be the first in their family to be going to college. Because of this, I wanted to discuss a little more about the various advisement models and what students may be used to, these transfer students, as well as some of our traditional students as well. So because of this, I am going to switch my slides again. And this slide talks about the academic advisement models and some best practices. So at larger institutions like UAlbany, we use the faculty advising model when students declare their major. This can be definitely a good model, but there are some negatives to it. Some faculty are just not interested in advising students. They're interested in their research, or they're interested in teaching only, or whatever the case may be. So the faculty model does have its flaws, and it basically, because faculty aren't necessarily trained advisors, and now I'm talking in the broad generalization of things, because faculty aren't necessarily trained, they might not know the best practices of advisement and things of that nature. So because of this, the faculty model might not be the best route to go, especially for our transfer students. And that's just, once again, a personal opinion based off of the literature review that I conducted on my paper. So we fast forward a little bit to the developmental model of advising, which is a broad term now used in advisement. Basically, if you kind of go a little bit above and beyond faculty advising, you're doing developmental advising. So, which once again is a broad generalization, but just to give you the bigger picture of things, that's what developmental advisement has been ranged over. It was a term, I believe, coined in the 80s to basically meet the students on their level and have them develop throughout their academic careers into sustainable individuals, meaning that they're able to come to you with their schedules already prepared, be able to find out the resources necessary, as well as just becoming a model of the campus. So that's kind of developmental advising in a nutshell, which then we go to Jennifer Bloom's appreciative advising model. And because of developmental advising has been defined so broadly, this kind of narrows this down a little bit. So appreciative advisement, as mentioned in my paper, is basically where the student's not just the one learning, but it's a give and take between the faculty advisor or the regular advisor. It entails basically students finding a realizing that each student is different. So it is because of hold on a second. So what's the for the RAN system? The RAN system background and design was basically to develop early transfer outreach for these transfer students to help with the transfer shock, as well as I mentioned before, bridge a gap between the academic department, the university, and the student, especially when they can feel lost. So the RAN system is broken up into two major pillars, the website and the virtual island. The website is the backbone of the project, at least that's the way I see it. It's consistent of 4 modules that the students work through independently. And the end result is to get something called their AVN, which is their Advisement Verification Number. The RAN system follows the appreciative model of advisement, as it's run by one advisor, run by me, the advisement coordinator, to basically be able to build that rapport with the students. So, like I said, the website is the backbone where they work independently and they break their model down, they break their advisement down into 4 modules. Through my time at SUNY ESC, I've seen that through the use of platforms like Second Life and Kitely, we are able to build a connection with individuals that are interpersonal without being in person. And it is because of this idea that I decided to incorporate the virtual island component to the RAN system and not just make it a mini course on how to register. So the RAN system took several weeks to develop. I actually started right after the FPP was approved, and there were some challenges along the way. There were some things that I had to consider. I had to consider whether or not these students were all digital natives, which I'm assuming I built under the assumption that most of them would have the technological experience to be able to go into the virtual island without any issues and take place in this virtual workshop. It's kind of, I'll use the word new and strange to some individuals, and I use the word strange is because people see Kitely and Second Life as a video game, not necessarily as a place to foster academic success or academic outreach, and that's where we're trying to change the mentality that you can build an advisement community here and be able to foster that rapport without meeting the student right off the bat. Okay, so another thing that I want to point out is that the challenges were not necessarily just whether or not the students would be digital natives, but would I be able to construct something tangible in a short amount of time that would be able to give the students all the resources that are necessary. So, like I mentioned, I broke it down into 4 modules. The first 2 modules are constructed on the virtual and how to set up their avatars. Because, like I said, this is new and strange to some individuals. So I'm trying to use that appreciative model of advisement and that understanding and caring to give them as many resources as possible. That's why I leaned a lot on video tutorials, as well as various activities throughout the modules to get them set up for the pre-orientation workshop. That is the main goal of this, is to, in this auditorium, host a pre-orientation workshop where students build that rapport with the department. Going forward, the last two modules in this RAN system is the registration and access of their academic programs and basically all the things they really want to get to. That's what I've noticed about our transfer students, actually all students. They want their classes, they're nervous that they're not going to get their classes, and they're concerned that all the classes are going to be filled up, so they want to get this done as quickly as possible and as organized as possible. So that's where the last two modules fall into place. The final component of the RAN system is to get them to register and submit a copy of the that will be checked by me, the advisement coordinator. And my apologies, my audio keeps cutting in and out. That is basically some of the difficulties that I had with the, not difficulties per se, but the challenges that I might have had was just trying to think of all the components that they would need to register successfully. Now, while I might have, I'm only human, so I might have missed a few, but that's where I go back to my paper and I mentioned rapid prototyping. Because of rapid prototyping and the way that I use the Google Site system is that if a student says, well, I would really like, or a group of students say, I would really like to see this, I'm able to go in the system, make an adjustment, and potentially add what they want to see or what they feel that they need to the system within reason. Another challenge is we're completing the videos. The videos took each about 6 takes, and I'm not the best of public speakers, and it's a little nerve-wracking to do video tutorials. Even though you have it scripted, you don't want to sound too scripted, and at the same time, you don't want to feel as though you're too casual as well, because then it almost seems like you're being lackadaisical or uncaring towards their needs. So that was some of the challenges. Thank you. What else was I going to say? The next slide actually goes into I don't want the project to stop just at the thesis stage. I don't want this to be a project just for my capstone and then be done with it and put it on ice. I want to actually incorporate this into the university and into the department and able to do early transfer outreach for students. So what I would like to do is start a small pilot program system. The pilot program will consist ideally of about 10 to 15 incoming transfers. That's probably about half of one transfer conference for me. So we get about 30 transfers each day for our department. So taking care about a small pilot of 15 would dramatically cut down on the number of students that need to be registered in person. I have gotten some departmental approval once I get this all situated to kind of give a go around with this, starting in the spring, or the winter when the winter transfers come in, and I'm looking forward to seeing what I can do in terms of early transfer outreach. The goal of the department overall is to have all their transfers registered before we see them face to face. This way we could do some more developmental and appreciative advising where we give them the one-on-one attention, where we can have faculty members mix and mingle with the students in person, because they did all of the hard parts, I'm using air quotes, with the advisor previously. Idealistically, the RAND program will make life easier for the transfer advisors, and hopefully this will serve as a model that can be used throughout the institution and in various departments. Did you guys hear that last part? I'm sorry. So basically what I was saying was the RAN system, I hopefully like to see the RAN system used throughout the university and in various departments, and hopefully serve as a model for early age. And that is my project.
No, that's great, Rolando. I think I had missed a piece, and I hadn't realized you had finished there. I'm much more aware of Rolando's project, and so I have some questions, but I'm going to stop for a minute and congratulate you. This is wonderful. I do my clapping gesture too. I'll do that in a minute, but Dr. Benke, would you like to go first with any of your questions or comments? And Meg, I don't know if you're talking, but you might need to click your microphone button on now. The one on the bottom from the left.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, now I can hear you. And I'll click
Okay,
mine off
great.
so not to get feedback.
Great, thanks. And Rolando, first, I just wanted to say congratulations and add to that. And please call me Meg. Mostly what I want to do is just have a conversation with you about your project. I'll have some small suggestions to make about, some writing ideas, but they're they're not big suggestions. So you definitely can go this afternoon with your colleagues at work and celebrate what your success here. I really thought you did a great job on the presentation and the overall project. As Eileen mentioned, she's really been working with you all the way and is much more expert at the technology aspects. I'm really more expert at the aspects of academic advising, and probably share more with you in parallel about the kind of work that you do as the biology advising coordinator. I have just, a couple of questions for you to talk with me about more. I was really glad to hear you say in your presentation that you're trying to focus this more on getting a sense of community with your students, and in trying to push a little bit more the appreciative advising in the time that you have your face-to-face meetings together. What I wondered is, you've chosen in this pilot to do to highlight the transactional aspects of advising, let's get you registered aspect. Do you think you might in the future, or have you considered, doing some of the more appreciative or developmental aspects in the technology space? Have you considered doing some of the icebreaker type activities that you would normally do on campus in this space?
Actually, yes. In the pre-orientation workshop, we have a couple icebreakers. I know I wrote in my paper, if we have time to do them, I would like to do icebreakers with the students to get them more comfortable with not just me, but one another as well. I can even
We lost you there for a minute.
um, okay, here we go. I'm back. I could even see long term using this island as a place to meet with students and do academic advising and appreciative advising one on one. So definitely want to foster the community and the pre-orientation workshop. I don't want it just to be another lecture. I don't want it to be where students feel like they're being talked at, because that's never fun for anybody. So I would like to do like you said, the icebreakers and get them a tour of the island and maybe develop some fun interactive games within the virtual space just to get them comfortable and get them motivated and introduced to one another as well as myself.
I've been really amazed at the work that Eileen and Nicola have done to get students connected in this environment. And I do very much see how it can promote community among the students. And it's not for every student, but definitely for a subset of the students that they get very excited. And, I remember one orientation session where everybody was dancing. I'm getting an echo. Are you guys getting an echo?
That was my fault, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. So, I do appreciate that you could try to figure out how to build the community in this space. So that's very exciting. Another thought I had about your presentation, I did go and look at all your video resources and the website, and I thought it was really great what you put together there. I thought they were in the design of it. They were in very nice numbers of activities. The videos were just long enough, not too long. You got right to the message pretty clearly, and even though you said you're not a good speaker, you actually are a very good speaker. And it felt to me like I was getting to know you a little bit too. Just as I'm not one who's capable to evaluate your work in the virtual space, but one of the thoughts I had about the web resources, I wondered if you had considered doing more of an introduction about yourself and sort of the purposes of going into this space. I kind of felt as a user that it perhaps leapt to the technology a little too quickly versus sort of the purpose of why we're here in the advisement situation. Did you think about doing something like that?
I was thinking about something along those lines, mainly because of the first introductory video. I wanted to give short segmented videos, but I could have done one, as you mentioned, to introduce not only myself a little bit more, but just kind of even some of the shifts of advisement that we're doing in the department, and let them know, I guess, what I'm trying to say is, let the students know right off the bat that we care. And you're right, it does leap right into the technology very quickly, but at the same time, I wanted to hold their attention, and they're probably going to pick and choose what videos they're going to watch anyway, to be realistic. But ideally, it's for them to I didn't want them to get bored. I didn't want them to be like, okay, this guy's talking again. So that was just kind of my thought as to why I left it out. But
You dropped off
it's
for a
definitely
second there.
something. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely something that I would like to add, that I can add in. I can absolutely add in.
That's great. I think, you definitely have the opportunity to, model the developmental advising that you're promoting, so, focusing as clearly on the transactional stuff that you need to get done, and then also the, modeling the appreciative things that you want to get across. And I think you're absolutely onto something that you could expand as you go further. I get it what you're saying, that you got to, for the first pilot, you're going to really focus on, let's get them the hard part, and then when they come to campus, we'll have better time to do some other things. Could you talk about what your thought is about what you would substitute now in the on-campus experience that they come for?
Absolutely. So I was giving this a lot of thought, because if we have all 30 students registered at each transfer conference, they're just gonna, it's gonna be me telling them a little bit about the department. That's kind of the breakdown. I tell them about the department, we introduction for some of the faculty, and then we go downstairs to our registration room, to our computer lab, and we get them registered. So, and that takes the majority of the time. So what will we do in order to make up that time? And I was thinking of a faculty mixer. The department would maybe order some food and get some resources for food and drinks, like water and soda and cookies, and be able to meet and greet the faculty that are left on campus. So it would be almost like a social. This way, the transfer students can see that the faculty care about who they are and want to get to know them, at least the faculty that are around.
That's really great, Rolando, because I think making that introduction right at the beginning is really going to be very, very important. And then sort of my final area is a little bit about the administration. You talk in the paper about how you're going to get students registered, as far as giving them the registration number and all that kind of stuff. But you didn't really talk too much about like how you're going to get the information out to the students, how you're going to load them into the virtual space, making sure that you have, if you have one or two who are as bad as I am about coming into virtual spaces, are you going to have a helper? There's some of those kind of logistical things that I'd be interested in hearing a little bit about.
So when it comes to the logistics, such as what you're discussing, I did kind of consider, what if I don't have a tech-savvy student? So that's why each module has that kind of end-of-module final assessment. The reason being is they'll kind of each student will get kind of graded based off of the rubric that's found in the paper. And based off of how they're scoring on their assessments will be whether or not they really get some individualized attention. And if I have a student that's getting 5s on every assessment or the majority of the assessments, I'll do some outreach for those individuals and get them basically to have more one-on-one attention to foster their understanding and make sure that we're on the same page for the pre-orientation workshop. Audio keeps cutting out. to get them actually into the virtual space. The pre-orientation workshop section of the website is actually just a scheduler. So I would have various meetings throughout the month of what have you, whatever month it is, at varying times. So there'll be an afternoon one, but there'll also be an evening one for students that might be working or things of that nature. And according to the time that you signed up, you'll get a reminder that you signed up, and then you will then be given for the virtual world and how to get onto Krypton 2.
That's great. I I just a couple of thoughts about your whole paper. I think it's really great, and I'm sure Eileen will have some other things to talk about it. But as far as any additional, suggestions for the text, I think your paper would really benefit from a couple of the things that we talked about here. So if, and I don't think this needs to be extensive, but if someplace in your paper you write a few paragraphs about sort of administrative and logistical concerns about, how you're setting this out, because I don't know that you anywhere in the paper said you were going to pilot with 25, which makes a difference about, how logistically you're going to handle it. But also to say that, if you think that, you would pilot with 25, when would you hope to move to, your what do you get, 200 transfer students, or is that less than that?
About 160, and the pilot would be
Sorry, we missed that, Rolando.
Yep. The pilot would be about 10 to 15 students, not 25. Because that's the 10 to 15 is roughly about the average of half of one transfer conference.
Good. So what I was thinking is those are very you're making very good decisions about this, about how to pilot and how to scale it up. And if you could just write a paper, a couple of paragraphs in your paper somewhere about those kinds of logistics and how you're making those decisions moving forward. And then the second area, I thought you could write a little bit more in your conclusions. In your conclusions, you mostly talk about the development process and where things went wrong, which is extremely good, and things you would improve on the technology side. I think you could write a couple of more paragraphs about the things you brought up today in this conversation, about what you think the real future of this project is. The fact that you and how you want to use the face-to-face time for some of the more appreciative things, your ideas of bringing the faculty together, those are all very, very good ideas. And just talk for a few paragraphs about how you hope this is going to improve the overall advising process and the sense of community in the science division. One of the things I was thinking about is with science students, you would think they have some things in common already. So, some of the building community things, might be special for science as you move forward. So, I thought you gave some very, very good feedback today. So if you could just turn those ideas into a couple of paragraphs, I think it would really strengthen your final project. And now I'd love to have Eileen add some additional areas.
And thank you. I kept my mic off. Sometimes we'll get the interference with both mics on. And I wanted to ask more about the future parts as well. And because some of our constraints with IRBs and things, Rolando wasn't able to go as far as he would like, but he's already planning for the fall. And so I want to ask another piece about the future, and this goes beyond what your project was, but I know your ultimate intention would be to have more of the faculty come in and do their advising in this environment. And you know, my interest anyway is always in using these as community collaborative spaces. I think there might be some challenges, though, in getting faculty involved, combination of skill level, attitude towards a quote toy. So, could you tell me if and when you think you might move beyond directly working with students in an environment like this, how might you get some faculty more willing to participate in an environment like this? And I'll turn my mic off so we won't have conflicts.
So fortunately, I did think about that, and unfortunate thing is that we're going to have a lot of retirements coming in the department, which means we'll be getting more junior faculty who tend to be a little bit more younger and open-minded and interested in using technologies. So my targeted goal is not for the senior faculty to be involved in this as much unless they express an interest, but rather to get the junior faculty on board and see if they're willing to use this as a collaborative space to get their advisement done.
Well, and I'm certainly hoping that happens. Now, given that my hopes and your hopes come together and we do see this grow, what right now you're a bit below the radar in terms of the university. There can become issues that come up in the research now as more people are getting involved in virtual environments as to intellectual property ownership. Yeah, I'll see. Oh, can you hear? Can you hear me? Okay, you can hear me, and I'll turn my mic off in a minute. If and as you get your advisement website going forward, and even if this environment right now is something you can modify to what you want, do you envision issues ever coming with the brand of the college, of the university? And have you thought about that? And do people seem open to your eventually making this more mainstream? So I'll turn my mic off now.
That's a good question. I don't. I don't know yet. I think the university would want to see results. That's why pilot programs and collecting data on how successful our orientations are would probably give, the one thing I've learned about working at a university is that you can have a great idea, but if you have proof, it's just an idea. So unless you have proof, it's just an idea. So basically, I prove that this is a working model. And in the event I can't, then I doubt there would be less of a positive perception of it. If the end result is not necessarily good, then it wouldn't be worth bringing it up to the university as a whole. And as you mentioned, if I were to bring this up to the university, they may have their other ideas on how to develop this island. I'm sure they'd want to change the name. And they would want to basically make it more UAlbany, the world within reach. That's what I would like to do long term, is to get this to. I would like to. I'm sorry. Basically, what I was saying is that, the university will most likely want to brand it their own, especially if this works. Once again, like I said, if something tends to work in one department, especially if it's the largest department, which we currently are, we're the largest department in the College of Arts and Sciences. They would want to see it instituted in some of the smaller departments.
And now, do you have questions for us now, Rolando, about the process, or just you want to make comments about your experience with Empire State College as you went through this?
I mean, this has been great. I I never thought I would be in a master's program. 3 years ago, when I applied, I was hesitant to go back to school because I had a few years off, and with Empire State College, it's been definitely a test. It's been rigorous. It's been entertaining. I got to learn about this whole new virtual world, virtual reality, and all these other emerging technologies. I couldn't have asked for a better grad program, truthfully.
That's great, Rolando. I'm wondering also with Eileen, if you're planning on doing any presentations or publications about the work that you're doing.
Long term, yes, I would. I would like to do. I would like to do this. I would love to get it published long term, and I would love to see other, not even just the university. I would love to. I would love to see other institutions using this model as well. So I would love to get this published long term once I get some of the pilot programs off the bat to see if it's worth doing an IRB and getting this published. But right now I would like to keep it in the department and just see if it is actually working, if it can work. So that's where I'm at in the future. But a publication in my future would be fantastic.
Yeah, Rolando, I think you, and I'm sure Eileen agrees that you have great opportunities for publishing and presenting. I stay, I stay in touch with the literature in student affairs and in, probably a lot of the same things that you read from NACADA and, a lot of the professional associations. And I think there would be people, once you do this, or even just your plan for this at some of their conferences that you go to, I think you should even just present it as a concept piece to your professional associations. And also in New York State, there's a conference on educational technology in May of next year. I mean, I think this would be an absolutely ideal presentation for there, and you should really consider it's not too early to get these ideas out and to get you some visibility for this great work you're doing.
Thank you. I'll definitely keep it under consideration. That's something I like to do. Presentations always make me a little nervous, but I think I appreciate that. Thank you.
And we could go together to them, and I honestly think that's a wonderful idea. I'm hoping now that we've got a bit of a critical mass of students who've developed virtual environments, I'm hoping for us to get together and maybe work on some joint publications so it wouldn't be entirely too scary to begin with, and then we could find ways to band together. And last year, the year before this, a group of students, Irene and Terry, Al, and was it Maja? They all went to the CIT conference. Some of them physically went, and that's one of the conferences Meg was mentioning. And some of them came in virtually and presented about their work. Being that you're coming from the state system, it would be very interesting if you joined the SUNY conference. So I'll be following up with you to be sure to kind of push you forward on some of the technology, but some of your professional conferences I think would be very interested. As Meg said, this is a different concept, and I think as you go forward, so keep that data. We'll, whether you need an IRB if you're gathering statistical data, if you're dealing with individuals directly, if you're publishing a concept, talking about your design ideas, you don't need an IRB for that. So, that might not be the only intimidating thing about publishing, but there are different ways you can bring forth publications. So I'll be in touch with you on this anyway. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be at UAlbany on Tuesday working with Edwin. So I don't know, are you going to be around on Tuesday at work?
I should be, yep.
Okay, well, I'll be over, we're doing the STEP workshop. So if you can stop by at all, I'll be there with Cecilia and Edwin. I forget where we're going to be, maybe in the science library. And I'll be working with the
Okay,
kids.
yeah.
Yeah. So see if you can stop
That's a
by.
short. Absolutely.
I was also going back to one of your research questions you put in the beginning of your paper, or your statistics, was about the fact that transfer students are less likely to complete than students who start off at campuses. So if you could, you're absolutely right. If you could find some statistics that would prove you're making the program more sticky for, the biology students to complete. I mean, this could have huge impact down the road. Do you have some knowledge already about what happens to the transfer students in biology? Like, have you guys tracked and done the statistics on that? Where do they go? What happens to them?
Well, yeah, we do. I don't know how much I'm allowed to share. So I'll.
Oh, so don't share that. Just tell me some of your ideas to solve problems, I guess. Maybe that would be not violating any confidentiality.
Yeah, that definitely works. Some of the ideas is basically we see our transfer students getting, and I could say this, we see a lot of our transfer students not doing well their first semesters and even getting dismissed. So the goal is to get them to feel comfortable with coming to the department and saying, I need assistance. We're shifting, because of my time there, it's only been about a year and a half, but we're shifting to developmental models of advising over in the department, because that's kind of my specialty, and well, what I like to think is my specialty. But because we're doing that, we want the students to feel comfortable coming to us without feeling like failures. That's and then long term getting dismissed, and then we never see them again. And we don't want them to come when it's too late after they get dismissed to try to help them get back into the institution. So basically the idea is to be able to use something like the virtual space. If I'm not doing well and I'm embarrassed to see Rolando face to face, maybe I could log in and talk to him that way so it's a little less awkward. So the virtual space can serve as a hub for retention as well, hopefully, ideally.
And certainly it's been my experience with using virtual spaces now for, I guess, almost 10 years with students. There are a lot of tangential aspects to having people together in a space where they have an embodiment, and I've just written another paper on that recently. Your students coming in might physically be around campus, but certainly at some point they aren't even physically on campus. Having a space where they can come in, that safe haven, where you can be silly, you can have your dances, you can have your serious points, this island has many different spaces they can even go to meet, homework help. So I've just seen the value of community. It's an intangible. We don't even have a lot of research on this yet, but if you look at how people get together in those video games, those role-playing video games, you can build community. And I think just having your students interact may not solve all of their academic problems, but it, I think, can help where they can share with each other if they're feeling lost or maybe could need some help on an assignment. So I applaud that and hope you continue that and really look in different ways at the relationships that can be developed through this space. And I know with Rolando, I have met you in person a bit, but I know so many other students I've never met, but I feel very connected to them. And I think a lot of it is the fact we've met in these virtual spaces. So anyway, enough from me. I'll get off my platform. I don't have any more questions. I don't know if Meg does, but I know where you work, Rolando, and I will be there, and I will make sure that we continue working together on things. So I'm just looking forward to
Uh,
that when I don't have to be the nag anymore and I can just be somebody and we could do some fun work together.
you're saying that this isn't fun, Eileen? This is all fun.
Oh, we love writing
Yeah.
papers, don't we? The work
Um,
was really fun.
I,
I just said, the pressure, the getting
I
things
know.
done, the timelines, the lining things up. But the actual work, I really enjoyed seeing Rolando grow, but I also see an elegance with the way he puts things together. He's a digital native. They work very differently. Us older folk, and I'm the oldest in the group here, I love this stuff and I put time into learning it, but I don't work intuitively the way you do, where he just, oh, let's put a Google form up, let's do this. These are just tools at his disposal, the way the keyboard might be for us, or the pen might have been for people 50 years ago. That's just the way he works. And I think that's something we need to keep in mind as educators going forward. And for Rolando, he's going to work with a lot of younger faculty to whom these are just really accessible tools. And so I think we're going to see this generational shift coming about. And Rolando, you're just an excellent emissary for the next wave of learning facilitated by technology. So I'm excited to see that.
Thank you.
and I'm also very excited to see it, and feel privileged to have worked with you in the second half of your program after we shifted from Diane. I also just wondered, my final question on these is also to learn more about your own future for you as a professional. Rolando, do you have, I know you're fairly new in this job and it was a promotion for you. I'd love to hear just about next steps and your own future.
That is a good question. Overall, I would like to keep moving up in the administration, the university administration. But as of right now, I'm comfortable with the department that I'm in. But long term, ideally, I would like to see maybe I would like to see myself ideally in a dean type position, and be able to make more institutional policy long term, because I think that in order to make change, you need both an administrative perspective, but what I'm receiving in my department is also a lot of faculty perspective too. And I think by combining both those universes together, you might have a prime example of a caring and understanding dean to both the administration as well as to the faculty. So that's what I would like to do long term.
That sounds great, Rolando, and I think the field would be lucky to have you in a leadership position in your future. Do you work with Peter Shea over there? Do you know Peter?
The name sounds familiar, but I can't put a face to it.
Okay, so Peter is now in a role that is, I think he's called something like Vice Provost for Online Learning for SUNY Albany.
That's why it
And
sounds familiar.
yeah, but Peter's a very approachable guy, and he's a good friend of mine. He is somebody who he previously was in the education program. He coordinates the master's program in instructional design, and they've moved him over to try to just help build online programs at the rest of SUNY Albany. And I think if you got an opportunity, you should send him a note. And if this is, I don't know that this is your style, or figure out a way to meet him, feel free to use my name, and just say that I thought he would be interested eventually and knowing more about what you're doing. You could figure your timing out, but I think he would like to know that somebody in the biology department has a master's in learning and ed tech. I mean, you're a resource to the university, and it wouldn't hurt to have, the bigger him know that you're interested in that big picture. And as Eileen was saying, he was working with virtual gaming. They're trying to look at things that go across the institution in learning and emerging tech.
Yeah, I would definitely be interested in reaching out to him.
Yeah. Yeah, because maybe you could end up being part of a development team of something there. If you don't mind that sort of introduction, I may tell Peter that you worked with us and just recommend that you'd be somebody interesting to talk to.
That would be great. I don't mind that at all.
Great.
As a matter of fact, Peter and I were working. Well, Peter got the grant. I think it was an IITG grant, and the collective of us were looking at creating game environments for K-12. And I think your perspective would be very interesting. What I saw in the group was it was primarily older faculty looking at this, not yet understanding what a game, how these environments aren't easy to create games in. And your perspective too, when you came in, us adults, we have a hard time navigating. When you bring in young folks, they are out looking for the game, so he needed people to help him close that gap between what a youthful audience would look for versus an older audience in some of the STEM activities he was doing, which I think could tie into the biology department. And Peter and I went through UAlbany together for our doctorate. He was actually in languages, but he's moved more generally into the technology, and he's a big advocate of using technology. So he would be a good connection. And we'll make sure you know how to reach him.
That all sounds great.
Yeah, the other thing about Peter is he's very connected with national online resources. So if you have interest beyond SUNY Albany, he has connections. We served on a board together for the Online Learning Consortium. He heads up the Journal of Asynchronous Learning Networks, which is, one of the leading journals in the field. So he would be a very good connection for you.
Yes, he sounds like somebody who I would like to get to know.
And your current administration seems a little more forward-thinking about technology and online. I mean, I never thought in the past they were very interested in technology enhanced, but I've been hearing lots more positive from SUNY Albany administration, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. They're trying to use ESC as a model, especially for their distance learning component that they're trying to use. I'm sorry, that they're trying to start up.
Yeah. Well, Eileen, where I am right now is really with the exception of those couple of little sections to just basically summarize from the conversation today. There were a couple things I wondered about in the APA formatting, and Eileen, maybe you might help me with this. It seemed like some of the headings were different sizes, and I just wondered if you might double check on that. And then the other thing was, I wasn't sure about the use of italics in like the table of contents and in the text.
I'll check on that too. I don't know if APA has any style guides on the table of contents. I don't think I've ever looked at that. That's generated automatically by Microsoft Word, but you can pick different versions. So I'll see if there's any specifics there.
Yeah. Yeah, or Rolando can check that. That was the that was the only area that I was a little bit questioning on the formatting of it. I'll do another real quick read on if I just see any typos or things like that. But I in my reading last night again, I didn't see too much there. Um, I want to offer my congratulations to you, Rolando, and you should definitely celebrate with your colleagues this afternoon.
Yeah. Yep. Can you give us a
Thank you.
gesture over here, Rolando? I think we need a gesture for this. A happy dance?
I don't know. Let me.
Find one of your control G's. I like that one. Well, thank you. We should wait. We should be bowing to you. I want to applaud the hard work and effort, and I think really the brilliance that you have in what you've done. I think that you've stepped outside the box and looked at a situation that you could use educational technologies to really improve, and you've done it in a systematic, logical way. And I keep in the word elegant keeps on coming up to me because you seem to get right to the crux of things so easily. I know myself often I get lost in the details, but I think you very nicely got to the core things that needed to be done to get this piloted. And then you have ideas for where you might go with this. And I hope to be watching and seeing how you evolve with this and stay involved in helping you promote it and, you know, go there when you get to be the dean. I will be glad to see that. So that's all I need to say. And we'll give you some notes. I took notes on some of the points that Meg would like to see you amplify too about the logistical points and also where you envision moving forward with this. So you could add those towards the end, and I'll follow up to be sure you get that in, and so we can get all of the paperwork done. And but I think keep on taking those bows and go celebrate. I'll follow up with you with a little bit more paperwork to close that loop, and then we'll move this on to graduate services and the final dean approval, and I think you can be officially ready to go. So
Now, did you attend graduation yet, or will you go to graduation next year, Rolando?
That's what I was going to ask. I didn't attend graduation, but I wanted to know if there was a December graduation.
There's not, but next June, there should be a calendar going up real quickly, and we'd love to have you at June graduation. And you can attend in Albany. We have graduations at other locations around the state if it's not a good weekend for you. But we would love to come and welcome you and your family or friends there. That would be really great.
Excellent. Yeah, I would love to be there as well.
that would be
Yeah.
great. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to X out of here. I'm just going to close my X button, and I will be in touch with you. And I keep on wanting to call you Cal, but I'll be in touch with you, Rolando, and we'll finish up some of the last details. But it's been a real pleasure seeing you through all of this, and then finally hearing you pull this together and hear more about your vision. I keep on learning more about your intentions, so that's been very positive. So thank you, Meg. Unless you have
Same
something
thing.
else to
And
say.
Eileen, if you could just give me a call at 2401, just something real quick.
Okay, I will do that.
Well,
Hey,
thank you
and
both.
Rolando, congratulations.
Thank you very much, and thank you both for your time. I appreciate it.
And thanks for your patience with my poor skills here.
Oh, not at all. Everything is a learning experience. So
Yay. All righty.
Okay, bye everybody.
have a good rest of the day.